Welcome to BaseballGuys.com. I am your host on Around the Horn, Raymundo Flowers. First guy we're going to talk about today is Austin Jackson. Austin Jackson's had an abdominal issue. He's continued to be out of the lineup. He was out the last time on the field last week. It's been 7 days since we've seen him. He's out of the lineup again Wednesday. Really have to give serious consideration the Tigers do to putting him on the disabled list because that abdominal issue clearly isn't progressing at a rate they had hoped. Don't have any clarification right now. We don't know that that's a certainty. But again, he's already missed a week of time. What's taking another week off to make sure he's good to go for the rest of the season? Something you have to consider right now if you're an Austin Jackson owner. Now, what do you do if you're an Austin Jackson owner? Well, you can pick up Quentin Berry. And if you're in an A-only league, you can take a chance on Quentin Berry. Who is Quentin Berry? He's a 27-year-old guy who doesn't have a single at-bat in the big leagues. That doesn't always tell you the whole story, but it tells you a good deal. A guy's 27 years old without an at-bat in the big leagues. Clearly, there are issues with his game that precluded him from becoming a major leaguer at an earlier point in time. And the issue with Berry is pretty much this. His bat's not very good. Now, he's got elite speed, or borderline elite speed. Over 40 steals in 4 different seasons, over 50 a couple of times. Never a big guy in the batting average category, never developed any power. So he's really probably best served anyway as a depth play. Again, AL-only leaguers, if you pick him up, you can take a shot that he gets some playing time, maybe starts off hot with the bat, get you a few steals. But mixed leaguers, look in a different direction. Mike Napoli of the Rangers, awful. That's what you're thinking, right? Now, I'll tell you, he's hitting barely 200 in May, and his OPS is 605. So he has been really, really bad in the month of May. But I'll also tell you this. Mike Napoli's a 262 career hitter. Now, people look at him and see that 320 mark last season, and they see the 235 right now, and they're freaking out. What people seem to have forgotten is though he hit 320 last season, the previous year, Mike Napoli hit 238. He's hitting 235 right now. Tomatoes, tomato, I don't know. Mike Napoli is struggling in May. The batting average should come up again, 262 for his career. But I'll point this out. Mike Napoli's on pace for 25 home runs, 70 RBIs, and 80 runs scored. 25, 70, 80 for a catcher is a phenomenal season, no matter what his batting average is. And secondly, do you know how many times Mike Napoli's gone 25, 70, 80 in his career? Never. He didn't even do it last year. Mike Napoli is going to be very good this season. He'll be very productive in those counting categories. The batting average should come up. And though he's been awful in May, he is nowhere near being as bad as you probably think he's been. Can Mike Napoli be catching pitches at some point in the near future from Roy Oswalt? Certainly a possibility. Buster Olney is reporting today that a few baseball people are saying that there are some whispers that an Oswalt to Rangers scenario could play itself out. Now, why would it play itself out when the Rangers have said all along they're not interested? The injury to Neftali Feliz. Now, Neftali Feliz got an elbow issue. They say it's minor, but they've shut him down for 4 weeks. He won't do any baseball-related activities. At that point, he'll then need to build back up his baseball stamina and all of that. So we're probably looking at Neftali being out until the All-Star break. Now, the Rangers could take Alexi Ogando, who had 13 victories and an ERA of 3.5 last year as a starter, and put him back in the rotation. Problem with that, though, is Ogando has been terrific as a setup man this year, one of the best middle relievers in all of baseball, more than a strikeout an inning. His ERA is barely 1. His whip below 3/4 of 1. He's been dominant in that role. They probably don't want to make a move. Now, I could see Ogando becoming a starter and Feliz going back to the bullpen. Possible, because remember, Feliz was going to have 140, 150 inning pitch limit anyway this season with the elbow issue. So that's a possibility that they do something like that. They probably don't, because they're committed to Feliz, I think, being a starter. So why not add Oswalt? Now, Oswalt's probably 3 to 4 weeks away from joining anyone's rotation whenever he signs, because he's going to have to build his pitch count and stamina up to the point where he can throw more than 3 innings. But it looks like a match made in heaven. Oswalt wants to pitch near his home in Mississippi. He wants to be on a team that has a chance to win the World Series. Looks like a great match for those two. Ryan Braun. You remember when Ryan Braun was terrible? You remember that 13 games into the season, he was barely hitting 240 and his OPS was 700. And you all told me I was an idiot for suggesting that he'd be the first player taken in fantasy baseball. Remember? Well, guess what, folks? Ryan Braun is now a top 5 overall player in fantasy baseball. He's probably the #1 hitter in the National League at this point. Over his last 28 games, 11 home runs, 6 steals, 26 RBIs, 24 runs scored. And oh, by the way, Ryan Braun is now hitting .330 with a pace for 45 home runs and 30 steals. It's a long season, folks. When you're talented as Ryan Braun, 2 weeks of struggles means nothing. With Matt Kemp out and missing time, with the lack of stealing from Matt Kemp even when he was healthy, Ryan Braun's got a chance to again be not only the National League MVP, but the #1 guy in fantasy baseball. Lance Berkman, not the #1 guy in fantasy baseball, but a very solid performer, obviously, at the first base position. He's got the knee issue. Still a lot of uncertainty what's going to happen with the knee. We know that he's going to have the operation later this week, that he will miss a minimum of 6 weeks, potentially 8 with the arthroscopic surgery. But Berkman has continued to say he's received contradictory and conflicting reports from doctors. So he may still need to have work done on his ACL. I guess the ACL is stretched. They're going to have to go in there and take a look and decide if anything additional has to be done. There's still a chance that Berkman misses more than 8 weeks. There's still a chance he could miss the entire season and that his career could be over. Let's keep those fingers crossed that it's the minor procedure and not the major one that Berkman's going to need. The guy that doesn't need surgery right now, but one that needs to be looked at very closely medically and physically, is J.J. Hardy of the Orioles. Now, I know he's been terrific this season. He's got those 9 home runs, the RBIs. He's on pace to be one of the best, if not the best, power-hitting shortstop in baseball this season. But he's got an issue with his shoulder. Now, that shoulder has bothered him since spring. He's missing time today. Got to start to wonder with Hardy, who, by the way, has missed an average the last 3 seasons of 47 games a year. That means the last 3 years, he's missed an average of 2 full months. If you're a J.J. Hardy owner, you might give serious consideration to moving him because it looks like the other shoe, as they say, is about to drop. Carlos Pena batted leadoff for the Rays yesterday. Guess what? Batting leadoff for the Rays again today. Why is that? He went 2 for 5 yesterday, had a big home run for the club. He gets on base. It's not ideal. He doesn't have speed. The batting average will never be there. But a 350 plus on base percentage and all that power has Carlos Pena batting in the leadoff spot right now for the Rays. And then finally, the situation with the Red Sox is another odd one. Kevin Youkilis is back, and he's looked good in his return. Red Sox want to have him in the lineup like I have said all along. So what do? They're putting him at first base. They're putting Will Middlebrooks at third base. And they're putting Adrian Gonzalez in right field. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last. This is great news for Gonzalez owners because he's basically on the cusp of qualifying at first and outfield, adding to his fantasy value. Middlebrooks, who everyone loves and has had a great start to his career, should be pointed out, though, that his on-base percentage is .313, that he's only got 3 walks this season. He struck out 25 times, so I can see some rough times ahead. But for now, the decision has been made to leave him on the Red Sox with the injuries to Ross and Sweeney in the outfield. Looks like we might see a fair bit of Adrian Gonzalez in the outfield. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out and if that helps or hurts the pitchers with the Red Sox. I'm Ray Flowers, baseballguys.com. Thanks for joining me on Around the Horn. Talk to you again soon.